Action, three, two, one. Dr. Moein Azimi. Are you nervous too, or am I just nervous?
I'm not nervous. I'm just like,
Don't know what to expect.
yeah, I'm just like, let's see what we got.
All right, all right, all right.
How are you?
Doing well. How you doing?
Good. Good.
Thanks for being on the show, Chicago Business Community. Our first guest,
Thank you for having me.
my brother and dentist. Moein's been working for 6, 7 years,
Yeah, since 2018.
right? So you graduated from UIC.
Mhm.
I'll actually let you do the intro yourself. I know a lot about you, but if you want to kind of go into your journey of school and how you started working after in Chicago, and why we're here today, Elston Dental.
Sure. So I'm Moein Azimi. I am a dentist practicing in the Chicagoland area. I went to undergraduate at U of I in Champaign, and then I went to UIC Dental School after, graduated in 2018. Um, and I've been working ever since. So I work out of the Chicago suburbs, Naperville, Aurora, Bolingbrook, and now in the city of Chicago too. Yeah, that's about it. That's
Great. Yeah, well, that's awesome. You recently opened Elston Dental, correct?
Yeah, Elston Dental
Yeah.
is a new practice that we went ahead and started construction in, I believe it was July of 2024.
Awesome.
Finished construction in November, and we're open seeing patients in January.
Awesome. I love this place. My first time
Thank
here.
you.
So
I'm the interior designer of this place too. So
yeah, no, you should
yeah,
pat yourself on the back. You've done a really good job here.
thank you.
So let's go back a little bit. Before we kind of go into what you're doing today, I was curious to dive deeper into your experience in dental school, and just after graduating from U of I, you start dental school. I wonder what that's like. As a student who may be at UIC Dental or anywhere else. What did you like the most about dental school? How was it different from undergrad?
Yeah, so when I started dental school in 2014, I moved to Chicago, went to UIC. In terms of how it's different than undergrad, so my undergrad experience was in a big public school. Um, I studied molecular and cellular biology at U of I and the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. So we had a very large class. Some of my classes had 1,200 people in them.
Oh.
So when going to dental school, I knew I wanted to go to a school that has a very limited number of seats.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make sure that I'm going to a school that I can interact with instructors on a one-on-one basis, and there is not too many students that they accept. So, UIC is a great school in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago was my number one choice to stay, and yeah, UIC has. They accepted my class was only 50 people,
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of gave me the experience to become close to one all the other students, and to the instructors. So really, when I went to dental school, my dental class was kind of like my family, especially because my family wasn't living in Chicago at the time. And yeah, the dental class was some of the closest people to me, and we still are. And they kind of like we supported each other. There was no culture that we were trying to compete with each other.
Right.
So yeah, it was that's how kind of like it was different a little bit.
Yeah, and you also got to get closer with Dr. Shamil Shafi, who was your
Yeah.
business partner, co-founder, if you want to say, of Elston Dental and Align Dental as well. So how did you guys meet, and what kind of made your relationship as I assume to acquaintances in the beginning, and then you became
Yeah.
friends. How did that kind of start?
So with Shamil, we met in college. We met. So Shamil's 2 years younger than me. We met
Hmm.
in college. We met through one of our mutual friends, Daniel. So I met Shane and Shamil through him, and then really it was kind of like a big brother little brother relationship in college. We again they're 2 years younger than me, so we were really close friends. But also I would say to some extent they looked up to me in terms of like what classes to take. They would listen to my advice, and then we just grew very close. When I started dental school, they would always visit me, and Shamil ended up going to UIC as well. So we ended up living together at UIC for a couple years, and then once I graduated, ended up working actually for his parents at their corporation, Two Rivers Dental, for a couple years. Shamil's dad was very monumental in teaching me about the business side of dentistry
Right.
and the different factors that go into not only having a running dental practice, but how to have multiple dental practices be able to run um, using different resources, um, and really like how to set up a company from startup.
Hmm.
So after Shamil graduated, then that's kind of like how things started. After a couple of years, after a year, I think after he graduated, there was a practice that we ended up purchasing together,
Hmm.
and that's how everything started.
I appreciate the explanation. There's two thoughts that come to mind. A being the importance of a mentor
Yeah,
and what that can do for someone,
100%.
especially in the earlier stage of life. Um, it's not too easy finding the right mentor, and kind of all the puzzle pieces have to fall naturally. Do you have any advice for people who may be younger, starting out their career, still in school?
Yeah, being resourceful. I
Yeah.
would say that when I went to dental school, I never limited myself to really like spending time with one group of people
Hmm.
or doing a certain activity or not trying to do different things with other people. Try to be as social as possible.
Hmm.
Try to kind of spend time with everyone, trying to learn from everyone. Everyone's going to bring something different to the table.
Right.
So depending on how you learn from your mentor, you will put your finishing touches and then kind of make your product.
Hmm.
But your mentor will have a monumental role in how
Hmm.
you learn how to do certain things.
Right. Right. So the second question I had with your previous explanation was, when did you know that it's the right time to open up your own clinic and purchase a new clinic?
Yeah, so I really during the first 2 years of working, I had a day that I would go to the corporate office
Hmm.
and learn from kind of like how things went.
Right.
So even before I got my, so it took, once you graduate dental school, it takes around 2 to 3 months for you to get your dental license.
Hmm.
So in those 2 to 3 months, I would go to the corporate office and kind of shadow everyone there
Right.
because I knew nothing about the business side of dentistry. Sure, I know how to practice dentistry when
Hmm.
I graduated dental school, but I didn't know how to run a dental practice, run um, kind of like different things behind the scenes.
Hmm.
Went and shadowed there, would learn about different aspects that go into it.
Hmm.
Um, and then, so it, I would say the first 2 years, I was kind of finding myself in the sense of not only dentistry, but also the business side of dentistry.
Right.
So after a couple years of working, I think it was after 3 years of working for me, and Shamil had worked for a year. Really, the right opportunity has to come by. So
Hmm.
it's not something that you can force. And the right opportunity came by. Happened to be 3 years after I graduated,
Hmm.
and with that opportunity, it kind of set the example for like the rest of our clinics.
Hmm.
But the first one's very important because that's what's going to make or break you.
Right.
So it's kind of like a mixture of luck, kind of a mixture of being resourceful and knowing what kind of like you're looking for. And
Hmm.
different people are looking for different things.
Right.
So,
What are some of those different variables or
so
different
it depends.
factors?
Some people, in terms of opening up a practice, are looking for a practice that they will practice in.
Hmm.
They're looking for a practice that is niche to what they like, what procedures they like to do,
Right.
I knew that I don't want to limit myself to one practice.
Mhm.
I wanted to open up and take over a practice to kind of learn about the business side, but I didn't want to be a practicing dentist in that practice.
Mhm.
So that's kind of like the when the right opportunity hit. It was actually right before COVID, so there wasn't too many deals being done. It was, I think, November of 2020, right after COVID had happened. It was not too many deals were being done, and because there was a lot of uncertainty in the air.
Right.
Um, but it was the right opportunity, and we took a risk, and that's kind of like what set off us learning. We made mistakes, we did good things, so it kind of like nothing's done a certain way. So that's how we like kind of like pushed forward,
Yeah.
and then moved on from there.
And it was your first clinic, so you're bound to make some mistakes and have
Absolutely,
some
but
failures.
we were really lucky with the first clinic that we purchased. The previous owner had set very good systems in place that a lot of them we haven't changed to this day.
Hmm.
Um, and it was a risk. It was a risk that because of the uncertainty of the time, we just had to take.
Got it. Got it. Going back to a point you made about learning the different side of things on how a clinic is run.
Hmm.
So, you know, aside from doing the actual dentistry and interacting with the team, what are some of the other things that you had to kind of better understand and learn about before you could uh, practice your own or purchase your own practice?
So there's well many things that go into a practice. So the most important thing, so dentistry is what's done in the practice,
Hmm.
but you got to make sure that there is money coming in. There's debits that you're paying, and you're paying your doctors, you're paying your staff, you're paying for materials. You have to make sure that there is a cash flow
Right.
of things that are going forward. You have to learn about the loan process, the banking process. You have to learn about signing a lease. You have to learn about negotiating with a landlord. You have to
Hmm.
learn about suppliers, different materials to use. Again, it comes down to a lot of it being resourceful, but there are really good like companies out there that
Yeah.
do the different tasks for you. So you just have to like build the relationships, meet these people, and kind of go from there. But there's a lot to learn
Right.
about a dental practice. Insurances, um, a major thing to learn. You have to learn the different types of insurances. You have to learn about setting up payments, setting up a corporation, things that insurances need, your EHR software that you're using. So there's a lot of different things that go into a practice that people don't think about. Um, but once you do it a couple times, then it kind of you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You work a lot. You work. You used to work 6 days a week.
Yeah.
You were filming this on Saturday, so you're working on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, why do you work 6 days out of 7?
Well, in the beginning, you have to. Unfortunately, with dental schools and dental school loans, you do have to make sure that you are making a certain amount of money to be
Hmm.
able to pay your loans, to be able to live the lifestyle that you want, to be able to save money, do things like that. Um, Really, for me, I didn't really see a point in not working every day.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, you, you want to make sure that you do have a good life balance,
Right.
but once you first, because with dental school, you go to school until you're 26 if you want to graduate as a general dentist,
Yeah.
and then if you want to specialize after, then you go to more schooling. So when you graduate, you're pretty hungry to learn more.
Hmm.
I would say that when you graduate, you are, I mean, you're always learning, but when you graduate, you definitely are still someone who knows the principles, but still has to like apply them.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's good repetition. I worked at 3 different clinics, so I wanted to make sure I'm there 2 days at each clinic.
Right.
Um, and it's just something that I wanted to make sure I start strong so that later on I can kind of relax a little bit and tone it down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. What do you like the most about dentistry
interacting
and
with
your
people.
everyday interaction with
Yeah,
people? Yeah.
yeah.
What about different people kind of
I
you
mean,
enjoy?
it's just nice to kind of like talk to everyone about their day. Talk to everyone about.
They can't talk back
I mean, in the
though.
beginning they can before we go in.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just interacting with different people is definitely my favorite part of being in healthcare. That's the main reason I went into healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there is a aspect of in healthcare that you're helping people. Now, people who are in pain and you relieve them of pain mostly understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do preventative work on people, or you do restorative work on people, you are preventing them from getting to pain.
Right.
But it also takes a little bit of time for you to learn how to interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a little bit of time for you to find like your groove. But yeah, that's kind of like the main reason I went into healthcare, and it's the part that I enjoy the most. It's talking to different
Yeah.
people and kind of hanging out with them in like a relaxed way.
Yeah. Yeah. Being your brother growing up, I can't help but notice like you have a specific love for animals.
Yeah.
Why did you never go into the vet route instead of dental?
I think that most of that had to do with our upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Iran until I was 17,
Mm-hmm.
and being a vet was really not something that was offered or talked about to us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say that in Iran, dentistry is a very it's a field that a lot of people want to go into. It's probably the hardest field to get into
Mm-hmm.
when people are applying. But yeah, it kind of like started from there. Um, I do love animals. Now, I don't know if I could be a vet necessarily
Yeah.
because there's also negative things that you have to do with animals, and I don't know if I have the heart to do.
Right.
But it also wasn't something that my upbringing really allowed me to think about.
Encouraged. Or,
Yeah, so
right.
it wasn't something that I really ever thought about. But yeah, I mean, we see the good parts of being a vet, but there's also dark parts that I don't know if it's something that I'd want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, diagnosing, like, it's a much harder job. You have to diagnose on a patient you can't speak to.
Yeah.
So at least we use X-rays and we talk to patients. We test their teeth. We look at their gums. We measure things directly. But imagine trying to diagnose on someone that you can't get any data from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For people who don't know, Moein has three dogs and a cat, and loves his fish and plants.
Yeah.
So a fan of life,
Yeah.
definitely, and everything that's all the furry animals. The next thing I kind of wanted to speak with you about, as you're 9 years older than me, and you've entered a different stage of your life. Um, One of the questions that I recently came to mind is what are the importance of hobbies in life and what they do for you, how they drive you, how they take your mind off of work or life. How important is the role of hobby for someone who's in their 20s or 30s?
I think it's very important to
Mm-hmm.
like have something to do other than work. Now it could be sports, it could be playing an instrument. Now I wasn't lucky enough to like get to play an instrument. I don't know if I really necessarily had the artistic talents that like you have,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say like having pets and animals was really my hobby growing up. Um, that's kind of like what I never really played with toys.
Yeah.
Um, Whenever I went outside, I'd come back with a random animal.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what my hobby was. But hobbies are really important, especially like growing up, making sure that you do things that take your mind off of work. Now, work shouldn't be that stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So but again, hobbies are something that are super important, I think, for everyone to have. It's just something that allows you to do an activity and be yourself.
Yeah. Going back to dentistry in the world of kind of running your own practice,
Yeah.
um, what has been the one or two most difficult challenges that you've had to face as a business owner?
I mean, the one that jumps out to me is staffing.
Staffing.
Staffing is the most difficult portion
Mm-hmm.
of a dental clinic, um, because you are at the mercy of others. You have to find a kind of team that works, and you have to find a team that not only works in terms of like having the knowledge, in terms of having the attitude, but like financially, different clinics are able to afford different staff members.
Yeah.
So staffing is the most important part, and I think it's the most difficult part, especially after COVID, we had a lot of issues with staffing.
Hmm.
Um,
Why?
so, well, the reasons were we couldn't find people who wanted to work.
Hmm.
So there was a point that we couldn't find staff members who wanted to kind of come in. That we also couldn't find staff. We would train someone, so we got to a point that we had to train people
Hmm.
without having much experience. And once we trained them, then they would leave. So it staffing was a very difficult part, especially during COVID, and even now. I mean, HR is a whole different ball game, and it's something that in a small business you run yourself
Hmm.
without necessarily having any experience.
Yeah.
So it's through trial and error that you learn.
Hmm.
Um, Now, again, we've been fortunate that we had people that we learned from
Hmm.
in terms of like HR. But again, it's something that staffing is definitely, and I would say if you speak to any practice owner, they would say staffing is the hardest
Staffing.
part. Yeah.
So how do you make sure you have a good team around you? You create a good culture where uh,
Trial
you're
and error. You
trial and
you
error.
you bring in someone for a working interview. You work with them. You make sure that you are what they're looking for and they are what you're looking for,
Hmm.
and kind of just being a team player. If you're a team player, I've worked with my assistant at Ashton Dental, Arlene, for 7 years now.
Yeah.
We don't talk when we work. We don't
Yeah.
need to talk. Like she knows what my next move is.
Telepathy. Yeah.
Um, it's just that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, we're family to each other now,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of like how it should be done. But it takes time. It takes people that are willing to learn from each other.
Hmm.
Um, Even as a dentist, like when I first started, Arlene taught me a lot in terms of
Wow.
like what experiences she had. I would say one of the main reasons that I got pulled to doing a lot of root canals was Arlene because she worked in an endodontic practice back in
Hmm.
Kuwait. So she's the one who really kind of like would in the beginning teach me things, and sometimes some new dentists like aren't very open to that,
Hmm.
but I was there to learn from her. She was working in the field for 15 years when I
Right.
first
A lot
started.
more experience.
So it's I would say that you just got to make sure that you become close to that staff member. You still create like a um, professional like relationship, but there's someone who you depend on. It's not there's no hierarchy.
Yeah.
You as much as they depend on you, you depend on them.
Yeah.
So if you keep that in mind, that'll help you kind of like move forward.
Absolutely. Oh, that totally makes sense. Talking about your team members, well, your business partner Shamil. What's one thing you really like about Shamil that over the years you really admire, and it kind of helps you guys really work well together?
I mean, there's a lot of different things. I would say that Shamil is more adventurous into technology than I am,
Hmm.
and he wants to kind of like try them to see if they will make like the flow better.
Hmm.
The other thing is that the reason that our relationship has worked is because we are best friends, but we also have a working relationship.
Hmm.
So no one's going to get upset at the other one
Yeah.
for kind of letting them know about things that they need to improve or like things that were done in a way that they didn't like. We know that even if we disagree on something, after it, we can just hang out as friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like, I would say the most important part because I think that sometimes when people don't get along, especially business partners, it's from having like an ego and
Yeah.
not wanting to like kind of like work on things together with teamwork. Um, but yeah, with Shamil, we both kind of are open to criticism from the other person,
Hmm.
and we each kind of like take on different roles that kind of like move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
What do you think he would say about you?
um, we'd probably say that like I'm pretty dependable.
Yeah.
So and I'll try to kind of like make things work.
I'd
Um,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
So um, yeah. So
Cool.
you got to ask him.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll ask him as well. Great. In terms of your next few years, where do you kind of see yourself with running your business, just life in general? You know.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like a business aspect, Um, we are hopeful to open a couple more locations.
Hmm.
I would say we do have one practice down in Florida.
Hmm.
I would say the Florida market is where we want to pursue some sort of expansion.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of life, just want to get healthier, just want to spend time with my family,
Right.
grow my family, and um, just have a good time, you
Awesome.
know?
Yeah. Great. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about or discuss in terms of your team to future students or who are becoming dentists to dentists? Does anything come to mind that maybe I should have talked about or asked?
Um, Trying to think. Yeah, again, just in terms of students, they just got to keep an open mind. You
Hmm.
gotta. The thing is that a lot of times when you start a certain field, you think you know what you want.
Hmm.
You're set on a certain thing, and then that changes as you grow older. So students just have to kind of keep an open mind. Some come into school being like, I want to specialize in this, and that's it.
Hmm.
And that obviously is going to change. Life is unpredictable. You just got to adapt to it.
Hmm.
Things will happen. So you just got to make sure that you make the best out of every moment
Right.
and kind of try to move forward with that. But no, I mean, I'm excited to see your next interviews, see
Yeah.
how different businesses run their business differently than ours, and what goes into different businesses and how they like operate.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, absolutely. We have a
yeah.
few more coming soon, so I'm absolutely looking forward to it. Very excited. Dr. Moein Azimi,
Thank you for
thank you
having
very
me.
much.
Number
Pleasure
one
is mine.
guest.